Hey there, and welcome to the Bold Badass Business Show, where we bring you badasses from all over the world. And today in the house is one of my favorite people. She's a friend, she's a client of mine. I've known her for years, and I've watched her grow her business and help so many people with her caring attorney estate planning. So I want to just welcome to the show the amazing, the incredible Erin Edgar.
Good afternoon. It's such a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for having me today.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. And we are just going to have a lot of fun. I'm not sure if your mic is on, but we can still hear you. So if you come a little closer to there, that'll work. And yeah, off we go. So Erin, I know that you have a super interesting story about your life and how you started your life. And I would like to ask you, would you share with everyone um, what you experienced in your education as someone who happens to be blind?
Sure. When I was growing up back in the day, in the state that I lived in, they didn't put blind children in public schools. We were in a separate school
Mm,
and we had separate, teachers. And to some extent, the educational standards were not the same as my parents found out when I was growing up. And
mm,
so I experienced having all of my visual needs met. All of the things that I needed were provided for me, and yet the standards, like what I learned, was not challenging me, and there was really no alternative. Very few learning alternatives. And so we moved to a state where I did go to public school, and the learning opportunities were greater. I was able to, get into the gifted program after my parents advocated for that because no one believed them, except
mhm,
for one guidance counselor because I was failing the tests because they were very visual tests.
mm.
Um, but aside from that, then it became, what accommodations do I need, and routinely having to have my parents and then me advocate for what I needed, with the school. So
I
it's
love
a
this
question of
because
resilience.
yes, resilience. And I can totally see, like, from this, because you're an attorney. You
Mhm.
are a fighter. You're a warrior for people. And you're the caring attorney. So you're a caring, compassionate warrior. And I can see how that started as you experienced inequities in education as somebody who happens to be blind. How
Mhm.
powerful. So you did get accepted into the gifted program, even though there were obviously ignorant people who didn't believe, your parents didn't believe the guidance counselor, and you went all the way through your law school. You're a
Mhm.
badass, Erin.
Thank you. That's a compliment.
Totally a badass. And I love that you have really turned this into a career where you advocate for other people.
Mhm.
And would you say there was a moment, Erin, where you realized, oh wow, you know, I've gotten really good at advocating, and you know what? I want to do this for other people who are being treated unfairly.
Well, um, I was about a third of the way through law school, and I had an internship with Legal Aid of North Carolina. And
Hmm.
actually, as a matter of fact, worked for them for a good long time after
Wow.
law school, but that's another story. I had an internship with them, and I realized that in one way or another, I wanted to use the law for some kind of community advocacy to help people in my community on an individual basis who were maybe not being treated unfairly, but who were in some way um, not understood. And
Hmm.
so that is what I ended up doing in that internship. And I changed my entire law school trajectory because of that internship, from taking courses about like foreign relations and international law to taking courses about family law and estate planning, and it became very important to me to help people, number one, give a voice to what they want, and number two, make it happen,
I
no
love
matter
that.
what, where they were positioned socially.
It's so powerful. And, it's interesting. You and I have talked about how those things that could have been perceived as invisible or visible disabilities, for me, I've recently been diagnosed with ADHD. I think it's a long overdue diagnosis. And that's a sort of invisible disability. And for you, I don't even think of you as blind. I have to remind myself sometimes, oh, I need to give verbal cues, because if I'm waving at Erin, she's not going to see it.
I'm
And
not
I
gonna
love
know.
that you have a great sense of humor about it because, you and I talk about it openly, but so many people are uncomfortable, right?
Mhm.
When they actually know someone has a disability. But the reality is, many people have visible and invisible disabilities. I don't even like the word disability because I believe it's a superpower. It made you a person who is a warrior, who is an advocate for others. It made me someone who really helps others create a structure and get things done. And that's something I had to learn.
Mhm.
Learn that. Really had to learn that. So I'm thinking as we're talking and we were going to talk about you've got to know this or you and your business will suffer. But one of
Mhm.
the first things I'm thinking about before we get into what you want to talk about is I'm thinking about the fact that many businesses are not American Disability Act compliant with their websites, with their materials, with everything, and they're losing incredible customers. So would you comment on this and the importance of being compliant and being able to reach everyone?
Sure. So, a little bit of background. The Americans with Disabilities Act, which took effect in 1986, did not cover, or was it later than that? I don't know, somewhere in there,
Yeah.
1986, 1992.
Hmm.
In between that time, it did not even know about the internet.
Mm.
So, the internet was not even around. And to this day, standards in the Americans with Disabilities Act are not absolute, they are recommendations.
Mm.
And so, the internet has been kind of incorporated into that, and there is guidance out there, but it is just that, it is just guidance. Now,
Mm.
the reality is websites were not designed for people who could not see or cannot see, and one of the reasons for that is there was nothing that told people how to design them
Yeah.
because there were no use cases.
Mm.
So now we are working still 30 years after the initial launch of the internet, which was in the mid 90s. We're still working on determining what those guidelines should be and how they should be built into a website from the ground up. And there are all these people, um, Rene Ritchie with his universal design, and others
Mhm.
who advocate to build accessibility in from the ground up because it's so
Mhm.
much cheaper. And nowadays, we've got huge numbers of these websites that have been around for a long time. And it's much more difficult to build in those structures because they've been around so long.
Mhm.
And it's harder to build them in, and not enough people know how to. So, with those realities on the table, what ends up happening is that somebody emails a business and says, I happen to be blind. I use your site to purchase products or to learn about your business or whatever, and it needs to be made accessible. And that business emails back and says, okay, what do we do? How do we do it?
Yeah.
And users don't know. And we're not supposed to know, it's not our job. But what we are needing to do is advocate more and spread awareness. Not you must do this, but more like it would be great because you're missing out on our input and our voices
Mhm.
matter too. And
Yes.
you may not know how to fix it, but here's where to go. And we are willing to help you. I really do believe that the world is a collaborative place and we
Mhm.
should all help each other. And so I have had the most success with contacting companies that I use their software all the time. and I have said to them, let's work together to make it accessible. And I have built the structure in for our work together because honestly, it's not on people's radar. Blind people are what, 5% of the market share. It's not a lot. And so it isn't on people's radar. And yet most people really want to be good to others, I believe, and they really want to be educated and really want to be made aware. And they will work with you if you proceed from that attitude.
Well,
Because
let me
a lot of
interrupt
people
for a
don't.
second. I
Yeah,
want to
please
interrupt for a
do.
second because you said 5% of people are
Hmm.
blind. But here's the thing. I know with my mother,
Hmm.
she can't see stuff. I know even for myself, like I just said to somebody today, I do not use WhatsApp for communicating with my VAs because I can't see it well. I cannot see
Interesting.
it well on my phone, right? I need to be at my desktop to be able to. That's why I prefer Facebook Messenger, right?
Hmm.
And so what I'm thinking is it's a way greater. Well, people who are completely happen to completely be blind, that may be 5%, but there are many people who have all sorts of visual issues. And the sad thing is that business owners who aren't taking this into account and thinking about, for example, the size of the font they
Hmm.
use, the clarity of the font, the contrast, because if somebody has some sight but not all of it, if you're not thinking about that stuff, you're losing
Hmm.
customers.
You're losing customers, and most people, they don't think outside of the box.
Yeah.
And so um, that's what I help people do, both in my business and what I have to do and what I had to learn to do
Hmm.
in my own life was think outside the box. And to be honest, most people, unless they know someone who's blind or partially sighted or whatnot, they have
Hmm.
no idea what those people are, what we're experiencing. And so they don't have, you know, a place to look because we don't have each other's experience. So the job that companies must do is become more aware, and they're only going to do it when people make them aware.
Exactly.
It's not going to come to them. They're only going to become aware when people um, who have the need allow, open up enough to make them aware and share in the creation as, a responsibility, as a collaborative effort to let people know what they need.
And it's also, in a way it's similar to having everything in both English and Spanish. If you
Hmm.
are not having your most important things in English, look at all the major banks, they're English and Spanish. If you don't have that, you're losing customers. So I think
Hmm.
it's important for people to think about this. And since you happen to be blind and you're on the show right now, I wanted to ask that. And
Sure,
I knew that
absolutely.
you and I, because we talk about this openly, that we could talk about it. And in
Hmm.
the same respect, I'm going to say something. I'm going to say that I wish that every person on the planet would tie a big old blindfold over their eyes and go out in the neighborhood and try to walk around. Just have an experience. All
Yeah,
right?
have
Yeah,
that experience
have
and
that
make
experience.
it, and it's all in how you are being with it. So if you're like, oh my gosh, I don't want to do it because it's hard and I might get lost and it's going to be terrible and it's going to be a struggle, then it's going to be hard and you're going to get lost and it's going to be a struggle. You're not going to enjoy it.
Well,
But
you could
what
start
if,
with going to the mailbox. How about
right?
that?
Yeah, and what if you, number one, just went to the mailbox with a blindfold, and number two, thought of it as fun, because number three, you can take that blindfold off anytime you want.
Hmm. Right. Which is different from
Hmm.
those who have visual problems that cannot be corrected.
Hmm.
Yep. And so important. And I think people need to be made aware because most people are woefully ignorant of all sorts of disabilities. You know what? I remember, and again, we've got to have a different word. I hate that word. I really do. I hate it. It's like the word developing nation or
Hmm.
third world. What the heck?
Hmm.
No. It implies that somebody is lacking. No,
Hmm.
someone is not lacking in something. It's not a disability. Actually, you've developed all sorts of ways to navigate the world because of that lack of that sense you've actually developed your other senses way more than anybody that around,
Hmm.
um, and the same thing would be true in all sorts of cases.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
People who have, hearing difficulties, for instance,
Exactly.
totally amaze me because they can't hear, but a lot of them can feel vibration to
It,
an extent that I would never be able to understand what they're like decoding from the vibrations around them, but they are. And,
mhm.
to the same extent, I do the same thing with hearing. I can decode a lot in my environment that, many people can't just because I've learned to rely on it.
And you can hear emotion in a way
Hmm.
that other people can't hear it.
I can, and it served me well in my business too.
It has. And let's get into that because one of the things I know that you want to talk about, and I think this takes us perfectly into it, is developing intuition and
Hmm.
using that intuition and using receptivity to understand who you're dealing with and who you want to deal with in your business, who you want to work with.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you think about, okay, I know that recently you had somebody who ended up not being the most perfect person to work with, so as
Hmm.
I did as well, right?
Hmm.
And when that happens, what clues did you have before? What could you say were the clues? Because I think this will be very
Hmm.
helpful to other people. And I have my ideas from my point of view with my person, but what do you see are the clues that you received through other senses than particularly the eyes that let you know, this person's lying, or this person doesn't have integrity, or this person's going to be
Hmm.
really challenging to work with?
Yeah. So it depends on the person. Sometimes it's in what they say and and also how they say it and how and the questions that they ask.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had three of these, three people in particular over the last 2 years that have come to me that definitely were not the right people to work with for me. And each one had a little bit of a different, I picked up on something different from each person.
Mm-hmm.
One person just kept asking questions,
Mm.
kept asking questions, kept asking questions. And I kept answering them because, that's what I do. And at the same time, wasn't keeping track of time. And then all of a sudden, 90 minutes go by.
Mm.
Oh, I learned, this person didn't end up engaging my services. And I realized because of the way they were asking questions, they just were in it for, free advice. They really didn't want to make commitments about anything,
Mm. Mm.
just wanted the free advice. And I kind of sort of ignore that person when they contact me. I'm like, yeah, I'm not the right person for you. You need to, go somewhere else.
We got a
Oh,
heart on that, by the way.
yeah, 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 yeah.
We
So
got a
I'm
heart right
not the
there.
right one. Oh, perfect. And that's one clue. Another person I worked with several months ago, and that person was sort of the same way, but
Mm-hmm.
the person was a fast talker. And
Mm.
all of a sudden, I was agreeing to perform services, and he hadn't paid me anything yet.
Mm.
Um, or we hadn't even discussed a fee arrangement yet.
Mhm.
He kept diverting the conversation when I would put it
Mm.
around to it, and very expertly, I might add.
Mm.
And so it was sort of like I got myself into a corner, and when I sent him an invoice, he said, "But I didn't agree to anything." And I said,
Mhm.
"But you verbally agreed, and I ended up doing a lot of work for you." And so that taught me always get a written agreement and always put a stop on it when a person starts, going in circles, and don't make agreements to work for something until you get that agreement.
Mm. Powerful.
Yes. And so this third person, it was so funny because she was very agreeable to start with, very
Mhm.
agreeable, said, "Oh, this all makes sense,"
Mhm.
and actually did pay me for work, and then contacted me the next day and said, "I've decided I don't want to do it. Your fee is too high." And one of the things actually that I picked up on in retrospect
Mhm. Mhm.
was that she had She was very closed off. I don't know how
Hmm.
to explain it. She wanted things done a certain way, and that's always fine. I want to do what my clients want me to do. And what's not fine is she wasn't really open to other possibilities, and she wasn't being honest about it.
Mm.
So when I said, "This is what we need to do," and she said, "That makes sense," I kind of got the feeling she really didn't agree. And she was just
Mm.
you know, trying to be nice. And
Hmm.
at the same time, didn't agree. I just, I wasn't asking the right questions. And
Hmm.
I did ask, "Are you certain? Because we can talk about it further. And if you have questions, I'm open to that." But at the same time, she kept saying, "That makes sense. That makes sense." And then
Hmm.
when I quoted her a fee, she said, "You know, I'm taken off guard. I thought it wouldn't be that much."
Mm.
And I had given her a range to consider, but
Yes.
people don't think about it. And I said, "Well, I can discuss it with you." "No, we're good. We'll pay it." Well, there's whenever someone agrees and there's that kind of emotional resonance in their voice, I
Mm.
always get a little bit hesitant because it feels like there's something deeper.
Now
And
I'm gonna say something. Okay, I
please
think this is
do. I
genius
know what
right
you're going to
here.
say.
Oh, this is genius right here because we've got to call out the thing. We've got to
Mhm.
call it out because obviously they're not going to.
Mm-mm.
They're, oh, that makes sense. Oh, yes. Okay, let's just go ahead. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. But as you said, you can hear the hesitation in their voice, and your gut is saying to you, this person is not in. And so I think the first thing that we can say, you've got to know this, is in business, you've got to really listen to your intuition. And when you're in that enrollment conversation with someone and something feels off, it is. It is off. Trust yourself.
Mhm.
And you could also even just say, hey, something feels off here. I'm not sure what it is, but something feels off. It feels to me like you're hesitating,
Mhm.
and uh, and just open up a conversation of that, because the thing is, we both know that those unspoken objections, they are deadly.
Mhm.
They are deadly. So we actually need to have the courage as business owners, those of you listening, we've got to have the courage to call it out, and in a loving way, but say, something's feeling a little off here. I'm feeling that you're really not all in.
And that's
Is
what I
that
learned.
right? Let's talk
Mhm.
about that.
And that's what I learned from that experience. I asked the question, but in the wrong, well, in a way that was not effective. I
Mm,
asked, "Are you sure?"
mm,
And that wasn't the most effective way to actually pose that question. The more effective way would be just what you said. I I hear what you're saying, and I also feel that there's something a little off. I
well,
feel
I
like we're
actually
not.
like your question, Erin. I think
Mhm.
that question, "Are you sure?" is really powerful. And then it can be followed with, if they say,
Mhm.
"Yes, I'm sure," but you hear the hesitation,
Mhm.
it can be followed up even more. And as you pointed out, we've got to ask really smart questions, and we've got to ask follow-up questions that go deep with our people, so we can
Yes.
uncover what is
And I.
really preventing them from getting
Mhm.
that estate plan done, or preventing them to soar into six figures and more in my case. So
And
what is really there?
yeah, and this brings up something because I mean, while it bothered me yesterday
Yeah.
morning when I woke up and saw that we want a refund and they were kind of rude. It was a she, so she was kind of rude in
Yeah.
the text message, at least in my opinion, about it. I realized that I had a lot of compassion for her because it felt like to me also in reviewing the situation that she wasn't in tune with her intuition.
Mm-hmm.
Like that question, which is, "I'm feeling something off.
Mm-hmm.
Let's discuss it," posed during the enrollment conversation would have been really helpful and more effective because "Are you sure?" People don't automatically clue into their own hesitation.
Mm-hmm. True. Very true. So it's really got to be explored some.
Mhm.
Yes, this is making me think about, you're talking about using intuition, listening to the questions they're asking, listening for if they are diverting every time you bring them back to let's get this nailed, let's get you started, and they divert you away, listening for that. And those are great things. I had a situation recently where the person was covering their mouth while we
Hmm.
were talking in a coaching session, and I knew something was off, and I really should have called it out then. All right. And as it turns out, that person was lying through their teeth. So I want to say to everyone here that, listen for what's not being said. And you can, particularly if you can see the hand. If a hand is in front of the mouth, they're holding something back. They are
Mhm.
not giving it up. This is body language. This is in
Mhm.
books on never being lied to, this is in there. So look for that. And if you can't see them, if you're on the telephone or you happen to be blind or visually whatever, or you just can't see them for whatever reason, you're on speakerphone, then you must listen really to their intonation and
Mhm.
listen with your heart and your gut.
Exactly. And heart and gut are left out of business entirely too much. Do you know we have three brains?
Yes. Tell us
I know
about the
you
three
probably know,
brains.
but I just love to talk about this
Let's talk
because
about the three
I
brains.
found it so fascinating. My first coach that I ever had told me about three brains. And there's a gut brain and a heart brain and a brain, and your spinal cord connects all of your brains.
Mm-hmm.
And I would tell her, she would ask me questions, and I would say, I don't know. But I'd feel this weird thing in my stomach whenever I said, I don't know.
Mm.
And she said, I think you do know. What does
Mm-hmm.
your gut say? And I'm like, what are you talking about? This was back in the days when I had no clue about body, anything, anything.
Mhm.
And so I realized that when we think about a situation, we're not only thinking with our head, but there's also like heart and gut that goes into this as well. That sort of deep instinctual um,
Knowing.
knowing that we can't necessarily give words to because it's not in our head unless we concentrate on it and allow it in, and then we can give words to it, and we get to trust it.
And we have to
um,
trust it, and then
we
once if somebody
do.
asks, "Well, why are you saying that?"
Hmm.
Explain it to me. You could just say, "I feel it deeply in my gut, and when I
Hmm.
don't follow my gut, I get in trouble."
And there was a Supreme Court justice, like way back in the 1950s,
Mhm.
who said who said something to the effect of 90% of making a legal decision is in what my gut tells me, and then I make the law fit.
Wow. Okay, wait. Repeat that. I love that.
It's not the exact wording, but he said, when I make a legal decision or rule on an opinion or whatever, 90% of it is what my gut tells me, and then I
Mhm.
make the law fit.
Beautiful. Wow. Okay. So powerful. And
Hmm.
that is, we can apply that to business. That is a wonderful tool for business.
Hmm.
90% of what my gut tells me is
Hmm.
listen to that and
And
make
I would say gut and heart,
Mhm.
but yeah, I mean, you get a feeling here, you get a feeling in your stomach. That's for a reason.
Yeah, so important too, since you were talking about the three brains and the spinal column. It's so important to know about the vagus nerve, because
Hmm.
that vagus nerve is connecting them all. It's connecting the brain, on our in our head, to the heart brain, to the gut brain. And if that vagus nerve is uh, under arrest, in other words, if it's in fight, flight, or in some form of reptilian cortisol induced
Stress.
stress, then it's not going to relay accurate messages.
Yeah,
So we've got to
it will
keep
be
that
stalled
vagus
out.
nerve. Yeah.
Hmm.
One thing I think is great about you, Erin, is that you went through my Reiki level 1, 2, and mastership program, and you know so much about about healing and creating balance and relieving stress. And you also have taught mindfulness classes. So you know so much about that. And I'm just thinking, you know, for someone coming in who's going to get an estate plan done with you, or this is such a gift. Those additional parts of yourself are such a gift to them.
I agree. And for a long time, I really didn't. You told me this when I first started working with you, and I didn't understand how those things could fit together, and
Mm-hmm.
indeed was very skeptical about the sort of like the somatics, the energetics that went along with the Reiki and the tapping or any of the other things that we've worked on. And it wasn't until I actually began a deep study of mindfulness
Mm-hmm.
that it all clicked together for me, because how deeply, and it's not just 15 minutes of meditation every day. I was doing very deep, intense work
Mm-hmm.
to be able to teach these principles to people. And people started, and the instructors started talking about, how does it feel in your body? I
Mm.
was like, huh, this all does work together. How can I integrate this into my work with clients without, I'm not the average lawyer. I'm just going to tell you right now, the average lawyer does not consider how your three brains work together. This is
Yes.
this is a very different approach. And so, how can I integrate it into my work in such a way that people, either they don't even know, or it doesn't even register, or I am giving them something beyond what is usually given. And I decided that part of my credentials that is called counselor at law, because it's part of my oath. I took
Mm.
an oath to be an attorney and counselor at law.
Wow.
And there's a meaning behind counselor that we
Mm-hmm.
have in the oath, which is allowing people to understand their legal options and rights and
Mm-hmm.
how they affect them. And I'm taking it one step further, allowing people to understand and embody the legal options and rights that they feel, and they feel surround their intentions, and helping them to embody what their intentions are, so that they can make the best decisions for them. And so it takes it to kind of like a different level, a heart level, a gut level. What do you want in your heart? How can I make that happen for you?
That's so powerful because, so often people are just thinking about estate planning as, oh gosh, I got to make sure that, this goes to the heir I want. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
those things are important. But really, isn't it about much, much more? And, just as in business, we can run our businesses from a cerebral place, as you were talking about. Most attorneys run their businesses from a cerebral place, or we can actually integrate our heart and gut and our mind together, which really means, I believe, that we get at a greater truth. We access
Absolutely.
it.
We
Yeah.
access a greater truth. And as I've said before, and you've heard me say before, estate planning is love in action.
Mm,
It's
I love
love.
that.
Yes,
Yes,
it's
I
love
forgot
in
about that.
action.
Estate planning is love in action. Yes. And some of you listening maybe, well, what the heck are they talking about? Well, think about it. Let's say you have a business. Like, I'm building out my travel club business. And one of the things I love about it is I can will it. When I reach a
Mhm.
certain rank, I can will it. And that is a fabulous thing. And I can will my spirited solutions business too if I
Mhm.
want to, but really I don't want to at this point. It's just not, that's not important to me. But the other, yes, it can be. Well, I shouldn't say that's not important to me. It's just that I think it would be, um it's such an unusual business that it would
Mhm.
take a very unusual person to fill it. And I think the travel club is much more willable because somebody
Mhm.
can take it over and enjoy it. So, people really need to think about their businesses as part of this love and action that an estate plan is.
Exactly. And when people start businesses, they put a lot of themselves, we put a lot of ourselves into our
Yeah.
businesses
Yes.
and a lot of love, a lot of care. And our business needs love and care from us. It's like a kid. It's like, in my
Yeah.
experience, it's like a child, and we need to nurture it, give it a little bit of that, mother, father love. And when
And
we do
sometimes
that,
some
it
discipline.
flourishes. Yes, and discipline, and
I
definitely
remember when
discipline.
we did the exercise and the Make It Happen Mastermind where we had our businesses write to us and tell us what they were mad about and what they were sad about and what they were glad about, right? And that
Mhm.
was so revealing, letting the business write, because truthfully, that business is an entity. And like you say, it is a child. We've
Mhm.
birthed it. And for some of us, it's a toddler. For some of it's an adolescent. For others, it's an adult. Mine is now, gosh, on September 11th, it'll be 25 years.
Wow.
So yeah,
Mhm.
but to think about, well, when things aren't going wrong, I mean, when things aren't going right, what's happening? What is my business mad about? What is my
Mhm.
business wanting from me? What am I
And
not
it
giving my business that it needs?
and it brings me back to some leadership principles, which is if what's missing from me,
Hmm.
because I'm responsible for 100% of everything 100% of the time.
Yeah.
And so, how can I bring in what is missing? Because I am infinitely resourceful, I am infinitely connected to God, I am infinitely resilient. So, what can I bring in to allow, or when I say I mean everybody, bring in to allow that business to have what it needs?
Hmm.
If it's more clients, how can I bring more clients? If it's more disciplined, how can I be more disciplined? Maybe I can time block or something.
If it's more creativity and fun, how can I
Hmm.
make what I'm doing more creative and fun?
And I'm glad you brought up fun, Barnsley, because that's one of the things that I've realized my business was missing.
Mm,
And I realized I was doing like all the other lawyers that I know, well, maybe not all of them, but a lot of them do, and talk about estate planning like it's a hard, heavy thing, and going into, well, the analysis of it and discussing it, but not in a fun way. And people
yes.
don't view it as fun. And yet, if we can talk about not necessarily death, but those matters in a fun and playful way, like for instance, would you really want your china going to Uncle George, who's going to pawn it for booze money? So that's
Yeah.
a
Do
fun
you
and
really
playful
want your
way.
grandma's china going there? No.
Exactly. No. And so getting people to talk about this by using fun and playful examples rather than the
Yes.
hard and heavy ones is, I think, a lot more effective, especially in opening up people who may be unsure of what they're getting into. And so we definitely need more fun in our businesses. We need them to play, to act out, to do things through us. And that is so eye-opening for us.
I've seen you present, Erin, and of course we've worked on some of these presentations together since I am very honored to be your business coach. And what I love is the little buckets that you take in and you talk about kicking the bucket. It
Mhm.
makes it, and then you send them pass the bucket around to get people's cards so that you can do a drawing and you can send them your wonderful lead magnet. This is just great. Like that, I cannot think of an estate planning attorney who approaches things with the amount of humor and levity that you do. And that's so important because otherwise it is a really ponderous, ponderous topic.
Mhm.
And before I knew you, you know that I went to an attorney and I told you one of the major reasons I went to him is he was funny. And I
Mhm.
could go in and I could sit down and I could say, okay, Duffy, let's talk about death.
Mhm. Yep,
And he
let's
would
talk
laugh.
about it.
He would laugh with me.
Mhm.
It is really a skill and it makes it so much easier, to get through those things that need to be done to really have an estate plan that is love in action. I love how
Mhm.
you put that. You really are the caring attorney, and you're very different, Erin. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show, is because you are so different. Way beyond what we started talking about at the beginning, like talking about ADA and uh,
Mhm.
you happening to be blind. That's only a superficial part of how you're different, because you're spiritual, you're funny, you really do care, and you're not just in this for money, you know?
Yeah, I do. And it took me a long time to embrace my funny side. For a
Mhm.
long time, I was working in very difficult people who were in very difficult situations.
Yes.
And then I
Legal aid, that's gonna
transitioned
be
to,
hard stuff.
and it was
Evictions
hard.
and
Yeah.
custody and oof,
Hmm.
abuse
And
issues.
it was hard. And then I transitioned into this work, which in its own way is hard. But I had a situation in which I realized I was funny, and no one had around me had realized it either before, and it cracked us all up. Um, I was doing again, my one of my coaches urged me to do karaoke at an event because I happen to sing. And I'm like, yeah, no, it's embarrassing. And then she said, well, do it anyway. And I did it. And the problem was the song was in like this key that it was like too high for me. And I'm making jokes and cracking. I'm like, oh my God, here I go again, screaming. It's so high. And we didn't realize that I was funny. I didn't realize it. She didn't realize it. And I
Mm,
thought for the longest time I had to suppress it because law is not really a funny thing for the most part. It's just not. And
mhm.
then I just decided it's just time to let it out because it's part of me. And especially when my business wrote me and said I'm not having any fun,
Yeah.
I, I just realized I needed to get the confidence or the courage or whatever it is to start expressing that side of myself. And the
Mm.
presentations are the best way to do that.
Because then when somebody gets the real Erin, would the real Erin Edgar please stand up? And I want to say that to everybody listening.
Mhm.
You are not doing anybody a favor by pretending to be something you are not. And recently I've realized, you've heard about this, Erin, but I've realized that I've got to bring a lot more of my intuitive gifts back into my business work. Uh,
Mhm.
at a much greater level than I ever have. And I've had some fear around this, and I've had some trepidation. And I am really working with that and releasing that so that I can express all of me. And I would say to everyone listening, to take from what is Erin is sharing, when you find that part of yourself that's having fun, for instance, or maybe you find the part of you that is a warrior, or maybe you find the part of you that is a lover, like you truly love your clients. Not in that way, but you truly care. When you find that part of yourself, especially if you are in a business that leans to the analytical and the cerebral,
Mhm.
you are going to automatically have part of your differentiation in business, and you're going to attract the right people.
Exactly. And for the longest time, I put those parts of me aside, that intuitive,
Hmm.
creative side. And recently, it's been a real struggle because I felt like I couldn't be a lawyer and have those gifts at the same time and use them.
Hmm.
And I realized that if I didn't use them and find ways to do that,
Hmm.
that I would not be authentic to who I was, and my business would always suffer. And what I learned is that when I use them, some people who are not right for me as clients may go away, and
Hmm.
that's okay. What is it when one door closes, another one opens?
Yes.
And I trust that people who are right for me, and this goes for everybody in business, those clients who are right for you will find you if you take the actions to present yourself as authentically as possible. The people who are right for you will show up if you show up.
And it can be done in any field. And you're making me think, since we're talking about law today, I'm thinking about someone I taught Reiki all the way through mastership many years ago. She was a divorce and family attorney. I think she's retired now. But she went through Reiki, she got the freedom. Part of the work we did was freedom for her to be her. And so she started
Mhm.
wearing her way out outfits. She bought a red scooter and she rode her scooter around Durham, and she just also incorporated the Reiki. She began to do more collaborative law, more mediation, and she would actually offer people Reiki before they went into mediation. And
Oh, isn't that cool?
yeah, and Erin, here's the clincher. She said, "You won't believe this, Barnsley. Do you know what? Something that would have taken days and days, it just took a few hours this time."
I bet.
For
I
example,
know
she
that
had
doesn't
all sorts of
surprise me.
examples how doing the Reiki ahead of time, that
Mhm,
energy work and priming the people to be in a collaborative mood, it
mhm,
actually affected her business and helped her reach the desired outcome a lot faster.
mhm.
Mm, mm, mm. Now, y'all, I hope you're getting what we're laying down. You know, if you are suppressing and oppressing a part of yourself in business, people are going to feel that, right, Erin?
They're gonna know, and they knew with me. They've known with me. They felt it, and people have said to me things that made me aware that it was happening, even though they didn't know what they're feeling. They will know. Somehow it will come out. And I've been, I've been working with myself on that. It's a work. It's a practice
Yeah.
because we want to be liked, right? We want to be liked. We
Mm,
want to feel like we're in control of situations,
mm.
and it's a practice to let go of those contexts because we come from that as a society a lot of times. And one of the things that I've started doing before I meet with clients, I build in some time before the meeting to, I call it grounding. You can call it what you want, but sitting in a quiet space and connecting with how I want to serve these people. What is it that I can uniquely be helping them with, and framing it in terms of service,
Mm-hmm.
and really cluing in on that. Because if I don't do that, I find myself doing the grasping, the
Yes.
clinginess, the nerves about money kick in,
Mm-hmm.
nerves about, am I going to make the sale? But you know what I'm saying? Like, am I going to have this client going to sign on? Those all kick in. And I found, interestingly, in the experience I just had with those clients, I didn't do that. I was like,
Mm,
oh, it's time for, and they were here. They were here early. And we started early. And
mm.
instead of starting early, and that was 15 minutes, by the way, which is what I
Yeah.
usually block off,
Right.
it would have been more effective had I taken that time initially and given that to myself as a gift to ground.
It would have been more, yes, it would have been a very different meeting.
Mhm,
But I love your point about, some people are just not meant for us, and we can
mhm,
be at peace with that, because even if to take it back to what we were talking about at the beginning, even if 5% of the population are fully blind, right? And you think that's a small amount, well, take the whole world population,
mhm,
take 5% of that, that's way more people than you would ever need for your business. And so, you know, it is
mhm,
important to think about how, you know, you are you are reaching exactly who you need to. And even if you only reach 0.03% of the population, that's still enough.
mhm.
Or 0.0000008%.
We are often, especially in service businesses, and I'm glad you
Mhm.
brought that up because I want to point something else out. We are often in service businesses, there's more than one of us. There's more than one lawyer
Mhm.
in our community. There's more than one coach in your community.
Mhm.
There's more than one whoever you are in business in your community. So if that's the case, are you going to look at the others of you in your community as opportunities for growth and collaboration, or as opportunities for competition?
Mm.
Because that frames how we do business. Do we do business out of fear of the other people? Or do we
Mhm.
do business that, ooh, this quote unquote competition is an opportunity to develop my unique skills? And people want, people will come to whoever resonates with them. And if
And
you're just a good,
collaboration is where we're
yes,
going. in business.
Exactly. In business, we're
Collaboration is
going
where
there.
we're going. Joint
Hmm.
venture partnerships, referral partners. This is where we're going in business. I firmly believe in this AI age, Erin, that the only ones of us who are going to really survive this and thrive are those of us who bond together and support each other with generosity
Hmm.
and power, not with, oh gosh, she just took my possible customer. Oh Lord. No,
Hmm.
no, no,
Hmm.
no. We actually get such a wider reach when
Hmm.
we bring, other people into the picture and really have these partnerships and collaboration. So I'm really glad you brought that up. And when we're doing business from a competitive point of view, those folks doing that, mm, it's going to be a hard road. That's all I
It
have to
is. It's
say.
hard. I did that for a while. It was hard and it was exhausting.
Hmm.
And I really want to acknowledge um, the examples I've had that collaboration works better. One of those examples, for instance, is the North Carolina Bar Association has a listserv of estate planning attorneys. We help each other all the time.
Mm.
We don't see ourselves as in competition with each other. We help each other all the time. I just helped somebody today. We had a 45-minute phone call and she wanted help with something. And I reached out to her and said, I'll help you. And she
Oh,
was so grateful. I'll support you. And, we're not fit for every client, just like we've been talking about. And not every client is fit for us. And the clients that respond well to us are, the ones that are going to come to us. And that's a level of trust that we need in order to be successful in business.
right. And
And also,
trust. You
and
just hit
trust.
the other big word, collaboration and trust. Oh,
Hmm.
trust right now. And again, it's in an AI world where we can't tell, when we're looking at videos or listening to videos, oh my God, is that really J-Lo speaking, or is
Hmm.
that just AI?
Hmm.
Is that I was just watching something that when a Chinese company had used AI images of a model, and not at all, he wasn't marketing their stuff. They had
Hmm.
just used it. And that kind of uh, lack of transparency creates such distrust. We
Hmm.
have no idea. Oh, wow, is this really a real person who says they just lost 70 pounds in 3 months? Or, they look good, but is that really a person or is that AI created?
Hmm.
Even down to our offices. Erin, one reason I just have my office here and I've got my certificates up on the wall and you can see the color of my office and,
Hmm.
you see a little bit of stuff piled up back here. I have a bunch of folders. I just realized that there was one on top I didn't put away. Well, it's real. It's
Hmm.
real. My water bottle, it's not one of those fake ass Zoom backgrounds that everybody
Hmm.
uses. I hate those.
Hmm.
That is not your office. Don't put that up behind you. You know, it really is something that in this day and age, I'd rather be me and perfectly imperfect, than pretend to be something else. And, I think that's so important.
I get that. I get that completely.
Yeah.
It's practice. We all practice at it.
Yeah.
That's
Got
what
to
we
be
need.
you. Got to
Hmm.
be you. So it is time for us to begin to wrap, and it is actually one of my favorite times in the Bold Badass Business Show because we're going to talk about the drum roll, please, the freebie vault. Woohoo!
Yay!
Yay! And the freebie vault. Get your pens, you all. The freebie. Stop washing those dishes. I'm glad you're listening while you're washing the dishes or walking the dog or whatever you're doing, but put down the dish, put your foot on the leash and get a pen so you can write down this address, which is bit.ly/ free from Dr. B, free from DRB. Let me repeat it again. HTTPS, the normal at the beginning, B colon // Now, I didn't need to say that. bit.ly/ free from Dr. B, DRB. And when you put in your email there, and we do not share your email, by the way, we are very, very covetous of your privacy and your trust in us, you will get access to all the episodes of the Bold Badass Business Show and all the incredible gifts there. At the top, you'll see the VIP Bold Badass Business sponsors. Make sure you get all their gifts, and then you can keep scrolling down to enjoy others that appeal to you that will absolutely transform your business. So, Erin, what are you going to be contributing to the vault? Tell us what the goodie is.
I have a 10-point checklist called Don't Leave Your Loved Ones in a Mess. And it's all about the 10 essential elements every estate plan should have to be well put together and to show your loved ones that you care for them and want to provide for them the best possible.
I love that.
And it will have all sorts of funny examples in it.
Aha! Yeah!
Yay!
So it's not a boring document with legalese, and
No,
it's short, right? It's nice and
not
short.
at all. Nice and short.
And they need to know this, because everyone listening, you know what? Your business is part of your estate planning. You may think, well, I don't really own anything. Yes, you do. You own a business. You probably own a car. You may own a house. There are probably a lot of things you own that you're not even thinking about. What about your prized stamp collection?
Yes,
From
your
when you were a
baseball
teenager?
cards.
What about that jewelry that was passed down to you? There's so much. And maybe you have some books, etc., that you've written. So very important to get this wonderful document. And tell us again the name, Erin.
It's called Don't Leave Your Loved Ones in a Mess, the 10 essential elements every estate plan must have.
Oh, that sounds fabulous. I'm going to get my copy of that. That is super important. And it is something that everyone needs to be doing. Just as a side note, 75% of people don't have wills, right, Erin?
Yeah, about that. And not only do they not have wills, but they don't have any healthcare powers of attorney. Anyone to take over for them if they can't make their own medical decisions. They don't have anyone really specified about that. And so there are a lot of very important things that you should have, to get your affairs in order. And that little document book thing talks a lot about them.
And it'll help you, not have your family, if something happens to you, your family have to fight about, what to do with you, whether you stay on life support or whether you get this treatment or that treatment. This is so important. And like you said, it really is, your estate plan really is love in action. It's like a love letter to your family. Well, Erin, I have really enjoyed having you on the show. We have given people a number of thises, since we said we've got to know this or you and your business will suffer. We've given practical thises, we've given spiritual thises, we've given physiological thises, and I think this is going to be very helpful to people. So thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yes, indeedy. And everybody listening, I know that today maybe you don't feel like a bold badass. We all have those days when we don't feel like a bold badass. However, I know that you are, because you tuned in with us today. You came here, you listened, you're striving, you're continuing, you're persevering. So keep doing that. You are a badass, and I'll see you next week, Friday at 4:30 p.m. Eastern, 1:30 p.m. Pacific. Bye all.
Bye.